I like to talk of philosophy and the various puzzles of philosophy, not because I want to preach to anyone or change your mind. It is not my intention to change your mind or anything of the sort. Believe what you want to believe. Rather, the reason I talk is to soothe and ease my own mind. I find that discussion on such topics is relaxing. It's like listening to a mountain stream trickle its way through moss and rocks. Talking like this is my own way of discovering new things for myself. Because if there were only one thing that I need truly convince you of, it is that I don't know a damn thing. So don't listen to me. This is all just for fun. Recently, the word love has been a lot on my mind. I don't mean romantic love, but love seen from a broader societal perspective. I'm referring to the love people have in a family, close friendships, and communities. The more and more I think about this word, its meaning, and the trends I see in the world, I've come to a disturbing conclusion. Love, real love, is dying. So what do I mean when I say the word love? I'll start with the most uncontroversial topic. When a mother loves her child, she will do and sacrifice anything for them. In a hunter-gatherer society, from an individual survival perspective, she has sacrificed her own security and chances of long-term survival to bear and raise children. And yet, what does she get in return? Her children have a chance to survive. That is all she gets. She doesn't know whether or not this will happen, but she puts her trust in her children to accomplish this and submits herself to the dangers of the world on their behalf. Likewise, a man who would love and protect this woman and take care of the children, what might he actually gain? Very little for himself, certainly, because the immediate pleasure of conception has already been had, so why does he choose to submit himself to more dangers and extra work to protect and care for his family? What he most gains is his children had a chance to survive. And he too, just like the woman, must submit himself to the various dangers of the world and this relationship as well, before he has a guarantee of the reward. In the same way, the children naturally come from the womb vulnerable and submit themselves to the power and care of the parents. Why do this when instead they could come into this world like other animals, completely independent of their parents? In this sense, the child has also chosen to make themselves more vulnerable than necessary. They have no strength or value other than the future that they offer. Just so, the woman, the man, and the child have all submitted themselves to something that offers no current individual survival advantage. It would seem they have gained very little individually, but it is not about what they individually have gained. but about what they have gained collectively. Something that I believe can truly only be had collectively through mutual collaboration and submission to each other, through mutual, foolish, naive trust. They gained something new. They have created a family, but more importantly, they have obtained love. While many things in the world seem to be improving, poverty is going down, our freedom is seemingly on the rise as seen through the lens of a ranking system, and proven by the fact that we have created 1,000 rules to ensure people are more free than ever. A simple phone in the hand of a poor child is more powerful and has access to more knowledge than would have been available to the wealthiest in the Western world 50 years ago. But despite all these wonderful improvements, what are we losing? The signs are everywhere. Surely and slowly, everywhere you look, people are becoming more and more self-centered. Division and tribalism seem to be on the rise, and thanks to technology and our collective societal descent into narcissism, we are all slowly being sucked into our individual, personally tailored digital worlds. For the last few centuries, the global population has been booming. But despite the influx of new faces, people seem to be becoming more and more isolated. It's harder now to make friends than it was in the past. And we have traded the family and small communities that we once thrived in for isolated boxes in densely populated cities where we can access everything we need or have it delivered to us without having to deal with human interaction. For many people, it seems to be no longer worth the risk of interacting with other humans. Japan and the Western world have a steep rise in lonely, isolated men who are no longer pursuing friendships or romantic partnership. Maybe they are justified. Why take the risk to connect when it is no longer valued by society? Families and communities are not as immediately profitable and exploitable as young, isolated individuals can be. So, it has become desirable for the state to sacrifice the long-term health of its society so that they could gain more profit and control in the short term, until it all comes tumbling down, of course. But soon it will become obvious. We have traded the riches of and sustainability of communities for profit and pleasure. But when you take more than seeds you plant, eventually the day will come when you must pay back what you have borrowed. Next on the horizon is the full integration of the human into the digital world. Something that would allow humans to enter a digital world that is under each individual's complete control. Humans will have become too sensitive to tolerate any offense or contrary opinion, and as a result, many will jump at the opportunity to dive into a digital world where they are surrounded by bots that say and do all the right things to make them feel important. But it will be a fake, self-dictated importance, one which of course will be meaningless. People will become the gods of their own worlds to stroke their own egos, and in doing so, will lose all their capacity to interact and live with other individuals who would challenge them and help them grow. They will trade pleasure and comfort for something that was far more important. They will give up the real world in which they could be connected to something greater than themselves for a fake world in which they will be the center of attention. Humanity will throw away the love and freedom that was abundant and trade it for pleasure and safety. Yes, the world is safer for humans than it has ever been in history. We seemingly have more rights than ever before. But are we slowly trading what we had for the illusion of wealth? The kind of shallow wealth that comes from an excess of goods and services that we didn't actually need. We eagerly exchange this new lifestyle for things of true wealth. We once had family, community, trust, beautiful land, clearing oceans, freedom that came with living in nature. But we don't have those things anymore. We have traded them in exchange for safety and comfort. Why are we humans not using this newfound technology to enhance and offer more of these true riches to people? Instead, we are falling for the lie of individualism. We are falling for the idea that we can somehow be separate, independent of the world around us. People lie to themselves that who they are is somehow separate than the world that surrounds them. That somehow it is more important than the world that surrounds them. And when one begins to think of themselves as only the thing that they see in the mirror, they begin to treat the world around them as if it were lesser than, other than. Whether it be thanks to God or simply the wisdom of unbiased evolution, most humans had their three greatest needs satisfied for the longest time. We were on a planet with abundant food and fresh water that needed no cultivation. While we didn't have towers filled with box homes and all the modern conveniences, Earth gave us wood and stone for shelter and protected us from the dangers of the universe. And humans had the communities. And while they may not be as grand and powerful as the countries and cities we live in today, they did offer something that we no longer have: daily interaction and contribution to people whose faces you can see. You were contributing to something larger than just yourself. You contributed to your family. So preoccupied are we in this day and age with our own little rat race that many of us are slowly leaving behind the few things that we actually need in this life. Instead of using our newfound technology to enjoy the most important needs more fully, we are instead chasing fool's gold. We are replacing our natural resources with sad imitations at best. Instead of spending our lives sheltered by nature and facing its many dangers, we choose decorated boxes that guarantee our temporary survival, but isolate us from the dangers of the world and other people. And we have replaced human interaction and trust with screens. The truth is that we, as humans, don't need this excess of pleasure and comfort we have created. It doesn't make us happy. What makes us happy is simple, and it has been the same for thousands of years. We need whole food, clean water, simple shelter, and a loving community. Every day we disregard these needs more and more when we poison our food and water, tear down nature to build excessive mansions, and throw away the communities and families that we evolved in, that we thrived in. It is obvious we need to be surrounded by love. We need community. Nothing else can make us as happy as this. It is interesting that modern society seems to be throwing out the Maslow hierarchy of needs. We disregard our basic physical needs by eating poorly and sitting all day. We isolate ourselves from other humans and have less connection by the day. And many of us have given up meaningful pursuit and innovation to binge Netflix all day. We are like cocaine-addicted rats, from the famous rat park experiments by Bruce K. Alexander. And just like in Bruce's experiment, the antidote to addiction is simple. Good food, good water, shelter, and community. Once we humans as a whole understand that this is the only true wealth that exists, that is when we can begin to use our knowledge to pursue a higher quality of this wealth for everyone. Now, I do not intend to offer any advice. I don't pretend to know the correct solution to any problem. I prefer to take the position of an observer. I am simply describing to you what I see from my perspective, just as a scientist would describe the behavior of a bee on a flower. But it is rather fun to hypothesize and think about how we might avoid this trajectory if we were so inclined. So, how does humanity avoid this inevitable path to isolation? Should we even try to do anything about it? More often than not, in trying to fix the problems, we discover that we have created newer and bigger problems for ourselves. The truth is, I am not sure much can be done. The drug of modern pleasure is by far the most addictive substance on the planet, and it does come with countless benefits that have all allowed for the survival of billions of people who would never have existed. But for what? So that we can plug ourselves into pleasure machines? I don't think a hard push towards traditional values and a destruction of the modern world will ultimately solve anything. After all, the point of life is to live, experience, and enjoy that journey to the fullest. But I think it would be wise of us humans to include more whole foods in our lives, care for and connect with nature, foster community in our lives. We should strive to use our technology to enhance our family, friendships, and romantic relationships. We should be using technology to allow ourselves to enjoy more time with each other and spend more time in each other's presence. But instead, we are too busy watching the latest show on a new screen. We should seek to spend time in communities that foster love and use the newfound technology we have to make these communities thrive, not just the individual. We must realize that the individual is nothing without the community. An individual cannot exist in a vacuum with no reference. This is why narcissists are always staring themselves in the mirror, because they need the external world to validate their existence, and the mirror is the best way for them to do so. We as humanity can spend all day staring at ourselves in the mirror and our screens, confirming our own existence. Or we can stare into the eyes of each other and realize that who we are is not just the thing we see in a mirror. We are much more than that. We require the rest of the world to exist as we are. And so, we are, in a sense, the rest of the world, as it is, in a sense, us. We only exist as we are together. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great and awesome month. Be grateful, be present, be creative.